use your powers for evil.
Evil? Your evil is mine.
Welcome to a big day of Doctor Who here on Next Stop Everywhere. I'm Charles Skaggs.
I am just... Oh, go ahead, Charles. I'm so excited. I can't even wait for your introduction.
That's okay. That's okay. I love your excitement and your exuberance here. So, yes, Jesse Jackson, my partner in time, back here in the TARDIS with me. So, Jesse, I guess we have some news to talk about, don't we?
Yes, we do. As we are recording this, it is 11:05 Central Time, noon 05 Eastern Time. Charles and I usually record at this time, and he called me and he's like, "Hey, did you see the news?" And I'm like, "No, I've been preparing for our episode." In fact, I had a whole introduction saying, in a typical timey-wimey fashion, on a day the new Doctor is announced, we're talking a classic Doctor. But instead,
But it is a regeneration episode.
It is a regeneration episode, and
so for those of us who've joined us for Planet of the Spiders, just be a little patient with us. We've got a new Doctor to talk about really quickly. So
absolutely.
Just hang in there. But hey guys, Jesse thought that we wouldn't be able to talk about a new Doctor because that we would just miss the cutoff of the announcement of the 13th Doctor. But guess what? They announced it early, and
Yay.
Here we are. And I actually got to reveal it to Jesse.
Yes.
Moments ago.
Yeah. In fact, we paused, and I went and watched the little minute teaser. Absolutely wonderful. As usual, when I run into these circumstances, I turn to the words of the boss,
right.
And he says, "Now everything dies, baby. That's a fact. But maybe everything that dies someday comes back." And today we are getting a comeback and kind of a new reveal. Charles, who is going to be the new Doctor?
All right, so I know by the time you guys listen to this, it's probably the news is like a week old almost.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're not exactly like current here, but we're current for us. So
yes.
For those who don't know already, Jodie Whittaker has been announced as the 13th Doctor on Doctor Who, presumably beginning, who will make her debut. Yes, her. Debut with the 2017 Christmas special, and then will obviously begin as the 13th Doctor in Series 11 of Doctor Who in 2018.
I am just thrilled. Now, I am not a radical, it's an insult if it's not a woman or a minority. I just wanted a great actor to take on the role. I don't care who it was. I just wanted that, Charles. And but I am pleased that it is a female Doctor. I think that brings us some interesting things. As I was so rudely interrupted, I guess Skype is a fan of male doctors.
Yes.
But I kind of, at the risk of repeating myself as we edit this together, I wanted a good Doctor. I wanted a good actor. I wanted someone with a fresh take on the role. I have loved all the modern Doctors, and as you have held my hand as we explore the classic Doctors, I have learned to appreciate all of them. And as we talk a little bit later,
I do.
Yeah, the third Doctor is rising in my esteem every time I watch an episode with him. He's just so good. So I'm thrilled to see what Jodie is going to bring to the role.
Yeah, I think that it's obviously, it's going to bring some freshness. And for those who are not familiar with Jodie Whittaker, she plays Beth Latimer on the series Broadchurch, which, of course, was overseen by incoming Doctor Who showrunner Chris Chibnall. So presumably that's why he felt that she was up to the task. And so if you're curious about the new 13th Doctor, you might want to check out Broadchurch. I don't think it'll be a great grasp of what the 13th Doctor is going to be like, because Beth is a bit weepy for most of Broadchurch, but it shows you her acting ability. And
Okay.
you'll get a good grasp of that. And she's also in the movie Attack the Block, which featured John Boyega, who played Finn in Star Wars The Force Awakens. So you could also check that movie out as well.
Nice.
So I recommend that. And we'll see where it goes. But obviously, fandom's already split, as you might expect about a female Doctor. There's the female contingent that is probably head over heels about this announcement and thrilled to death that there's going to be a female Doctor.
Yes.
And there's obviously a few males that are going to be like us, that are going to be excited about what this kind of a change would bring to the series. And then, of course, you've got the YouTube commenters and the dregs of humanity that just will already writing the show off, and that it's doomed to die, just as they do with every new incoming Doctor since probably Patrick Troughton's era.
If there was YouTube comments or the internet trolls back then, that's exactly what they would have done. Totally agree, and I think this is totally ridiculous. But, Charles, I tell everyone at my job when we're trying to do something fun, I said, no matter what you pick, a third of people love it, a third of people hate it, and a third of people just won't care. You just kind of sum that up in the same way. There are people who always hate the new Doctor.
Right.
And I also think that the same people that said, oh, Starbuck can't be a woman in Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
And
it turned out pretty well. For the most part.
That turned out damn well, right? I mean,
yeah. So how about we give this a chance before writing it off?
Yeah.
I know it's a wacky concept,
right? Like, oh, Michael Keaton,
As Batman?
Batman. That's just crazy talk.
Give it a chance, and if if there's you watch a few episodes and you're not a big fan of Jodie Whittaker, that's fine.
Yeah.
But how about at least give her at least one episode before you immediately write the character off?
Yeah, and
Write the show off.
Yeah, I think it is a good start because the new showrunner and her have a history. So
Right.
I think that helps right away that, there is not this now it's a new character and it's a new show, so there will still be bumps in the road, but at least they already trust each other and know each other, so it's going to be good. And as I say again, I was not someone who was fanatically pushing my agenda either way. I was happy with. I had even said that Chris guy from, who played the kind of fool in Love Actually. I can't remember Chris's last name, but I was even say, that was a role he played in a film. I'm going to see what he does. So I was going to be accepting of whoever was in the role, but I am very excited about this new direction and to see the challenges and kind of the story possibilities of a female Doctor.
Yep, I totally agree. So, my pick was originally going to be Richard Ayoade.
Yes.
From the IT crowd.
Yeah.
And because I didn't think that. Now this is where I have to own up that I got this one wrong, because I thought that Chris Chibnall, being an old school Doctor Who fan, was not going to cast a woman, even though he may try to shake up the series with Richard Ayoade. But obviously I was proven wrong, so I'll own that.
Yeah.
And Jesse, your guess was?
I had said David. Oh, I'm drawing it. The guy from Supergirl who plays
Oh yeah,
yeah,
David Harewood. See,
yeah.
I wasn't sold on that one because he's busy with Supergirl. So,
I thought that too, but I thought that would have been a
but he
very
was referenced in a lot of.
yeah, he was
skits.
on the thought, and I thought he would have been a very different take. So we had posted on various Facebook pages that we would give a free Next Stop Everywhere t-shirt to the person that correctly guessed the Doctor, and if more than one person guessed the actor, that we would do a random drawing. So look for that shortly. We will announce who won, because I've seen the name. I know that some people did pick her. We did get a Christmas present in July, so it is kind of Christmas in July. But now then I'm even more eager for the Christmas special, and then whenever we're going to get new episodes, because I just am thrilled to see what they're going to do.
I think it's going to be around September of next year, so we're going to have probably another big long hiatus, I think.
Yeah, I would think so too.
But unless that changes, so we'll see.
But you know, one of the things that I listen to a lot of podcasts about the creative force, and you know, the Nerdist Writers Panel and some other things, and Vince Gilligan, who did Breaking Bad and is co-showrunner on Better Call Saul, talk about that they have been blessed by their channel FX that lets them plan the whole season in advance. They can write almost all, you know, instead of only 1 or 2 weeks in advance or 3 weeks ahead, they actually can write and break down the season. And I'm hoping the same thing for Doctor Who. I would rather wait till September and have them time to write the 12, 13 episodes we're going to get, have them all kind of woven in together and ready, versus just a rush to get something out without a full plan. So I think patience will be rewarded.
Okay, I think so too.
All right.
So let's move on.
Yes.
We've covered this. Obviously, we're going to learn more in the days and months ahead.
Yes.
So, but for right now, we're going to shift gears. We're going to reverse the polarity back to 1974 as we discuss Planet of the Spiders. And this is the 5th and final serial from season 11 in 1974, written by Robert Sloman, directed by Barry Letts, and is Jon Pertwee's final story as the Third Doctor. So, Jesse, before we get into the main discussion, I want to know your thoughts on what you thought of Jon Pertwee's final story.
If I have only one nitpick, is I don't get his fascination with the curly shirts and the frilly shirts, but I love this Doctor. Someone had said,
I think it's more of a Jimi Hendrix thing.
I think so too.
Because of the time period.
Absolutely. There was also some discussion. In a lot of ways, he's very James Bondish.
Right.
You know, with his special Time Lord karate.
Yeah, you mean his Venusian Aikido?
Yes. He looks a little bit like a Mike Grill superhero Legion of Superheroes era, because of no one else can see my hands the way that Mike Grill used to draw the Legionnaires. I love the story. I think it may have been one episode too long, but I think that you have to accept the fact that in that time period, you know, it was serialized, and you know you're going to get 2 or 3 minutes repeated at the beginning of each episode. But solid story, solid acting. You got Sarah Jane Smith. What is not to love about Sarah Jane Smith? You know, Unit, the Brigadiers involved. This was just a really great choice on your part and we have a theme in our rewatch for the rest of the year. I just love this episode. To summarize again, it was just really well done. He has some charm. You know, he's just great. And I would so like his son to play this Doctor in a special movie sometime. Obviously, you picked it, and you love all things Whovian, but what were your thoughts on it?
Well, I enjoyed this one, obviously. It's one of my, I think I said this in the email, that it's one of my favorite Pertwee stories, for obvious reasons. It's a regeneration story. It's a big story. But it's also a fun story, I think, that you've got some Eastern philosophy being brought in, some kind of Tibetan meditation, and that kind of almost like a Buddhism brought in. So I thought that was really interesting. And you get some rather unexpected villains in the form of the spiders from Metebelis 3. And obviously the big bad, this big-ass giant spider, the Great One. So I thought that was interesting. And but you also have you've got guest stars, returning guest stars. You've got Nicholas Courtney as the Brigadier. Of course, the Elisabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith, which is always great. And Richard Franklin as Mike Yates. John Levine as Sergeant Benton. So this is like the kind of like the last appearance of the Third Doctor unit era.
Yeah, and I knew the Brigadier. I did not know Mike, and it was after I had read after I'd watched the episode and I was doing a little research, they talked about this was the last appearance he had, and so I guess he was a reoccurring supporting character.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like how Brigadier wasn't a really official companion. He was more of a recurring character.
Right.
But Mike Yates, a bit less so. But he was there, and John Levine as Sergeant Benton is about the same, although Sergeant Benton still goes on for a few more episodes in the Tom Baker era.
You know, I thought Mike and Sarah Jane Smith had a little chemistry,
right.
And so I could see that fandom at the time may have,
shipped them a little.
Shipped them a little, and I could see that. I think it's,
I don't know about this point because see, they make a reference to this that Mike used to be with Unit. He's no longer with Unit in this story because he had sort of betrayed them in a previous story called Invasion of the Dinosaurs. And so here he is. We kind of catch up about what he's been up to after leaving Unit. And it's almost like an epilogue for his character. And so there's a bit of a strained relationship there.
That's interesting. I did like the fact that it seemed he was trying to go there to find some peace and to kind of with his life. It was very interesting.
Yeah, he was trying to get his life back on track. Basically, he was misled. So he didn't really outright betray them, but outright betray Unit, but he was misled. And so I think he felt guilty about that. And obviously being discharged from Unit probably didn't help either. But he wasn't obviously bitter about it. He was just more regretful about his own actions, I think.
Well, like I said, good stuff. I can't wait to discuss it. So the biggest thing that I and our audience is wanting to know is, are you going to continue your musical themes as we go down this path of classic Whovian stories?
Well, let's find out. Okay, so first topic I want to talk about, Crystal Blue regeneration, as opposed
and the answer is yes.
So instead of Crystal Blue persuasion, for you Breaking Bad fans,
absolutely,
Crystal Blue regeneration. Had to go with that title for this story. So this is obviously the Doctor.
I love it,
and that's a reference to the Metebelis 3 crystal that makes a return because the Third Doctor had given this Metebelis 3 crystal to outgoing companion Joe Grant as a wedding gift, and Joe ends up mailing it back to the Doctor because apparently she was in like South America, and she apparently the natives there thought it had some bad juju or something, and she returned it to the Doctor, and it turns out it's rather important to the story, which ultimately leads to the Third Doctor's death at the hands of the Metebelis 3 crystals.
Yes, I called it the Chekhov's crystal
Yes.
because it was very important. I loved that we got a email or an actual letter, but a written cameo from former companion Jo. I thought it was lovely how she said, "Okay, well, Doctor, and then Brigadier, and then Sergeant." Depending on what's going on, I have to kind of give contingency plans to take care of this. I thought it was really interesting that the Doctor knew that what this was going to cost him, and he was very matter of fact about it. And so I thought the crystal was an interesting, as we continue, MacGuffin.
Right.
The spiders wanting it, the everything going it. So that made a very nice reoccurring theme through the episode. I like the fact that it took us off-world as well as in the U.S. It was good to see this Doctor use his TARDIS, because the premise mostly is he couldn't leave the, Earth.
Well, this was
So I
was
thought
after
this
the
was
Three Doctors, where he regained his ability to travel in space and
right.
time.
Yes, I figured that out, but it still was. We have not watched as many Pertwee
Right.
episodes as I think we will want to down, especially during this long hiatus. So it was kind of cool to see him. Question: did we ever see the inside of his TARDIS, or was it always just walking in and out?
We do. We just don't see it here. We don't see it as often. But we do see the inside of his TARDIS, especially once he regains his ability to travel in time and space.
Okay, very cool.
So yes, we do get to see it.
Good.
But Jon Pertwee, his final story, we have the Doctor essentially having to face his fear. And do you think it's more of the fear of the spiders or the fear of dying that he has to face?
I think it's the fear of dying and change. I do not think.
You do.
I don't think a Doctor fears any monster. I think he has respect for like the Daleks and the Cybermen and whatever Ice Warriors or whatever monsters you want to mention. So I think just the spider would be, it's just Tuesday here in Whovian universe. But I think...
Or do you think it's because the Great One was able to control his mind and turn him in kind of a puppet, which we see in kind of toward the end, where she makes him like kind of march around in place and against his will. So do you think it's just the fact that maybe he was afraid of that spider or the Great One because of the control she had over him?
I could see that, Charles, and I certainly won't argue against that. But me watching it was more, I go back to David Tennant. I don't want to go. I always get the feeling that, and this is a poor analogy, but regeneration is like graduating from school or changing jobs. You are leaving a significant part of your life and you're moving to something new, and you may be excited about this new, but you still have fear and worry and this nervousness of this transition. So that's what I picture to us, is he was feeding this. I was a little unsure why I guess the stone had to go back because it was too dangerous to be left out in the wild, which was kind of a generic, problem to have. But my gut instinct was this was more of the transition change, though if you if you told me nope, it was definitely he was worried about his mind control, I wouldn't argue and go, okay, I would buy that.
Okay. Well, I'm just speculating because it's not really clear about what his fear is
Right.
that he's going back to face.
I totally agree with
Yeah,
that.
okay. So it's a kind of open to speculation, I think, a little
Absolutely.
bit. So we kind of get the Doctor meeting up with his old mentor from Gallifrey, who's currently on Earth as the Kenpo Rinpoche, and eventually Choji.
One of the things
As
now
the
I
as
do
the
have a
Kenpo ends up regenerating. So we actually
yes.
get 2 regenerations in this episode.
We do, and I think it's a little weird that he regenerated into this kind of hallucination he was doing. Like, so could he pick his own face? I mean, is that the speculation? Or,
Well,
I kind of
he
a
says
little.
it's a projection, but I kind of wonder
Right.
if by projection, because of the time period that the story is made in, about whether
Mhm.
it's intended to be more like his future incarnation.
Okay,
Because
could
you
be.
notice
Yeah.
that Choji disappears just as the Kenpo regenerates.
Yes.
So it's almost like
Now,
it was like the the moment that Choji was like an extension of the moment after he regenerates, so that when he did regenerate, that's what brought him out of that moment,
I agree.
and he
Now,
disappeared.
one. Okay, cultural reference, comic book reference, take a
Yeah.
drink. I grew up in a world of DC Comics
Yes.
where Superman, you could not throw a stone without hitting a survivor of
Right.
Krypton. You had Supergirl, you had the Bottle City of Kandor.
Crypto, the Phantom Zone criminals.
Crypto. Yeah, I mean, and in fact, there for a while there was a Superman family book
Right.
that covered all these. And then they decided it would better serve the character if he was truly the last son of Krypton, and for the longest time he was the only person from Krypton. So in the modern era, they have very much made the claim up until recently that the Doctor is the only surviving Gallifreyan. He was the lone remaining Time Lord. We now do know that Gallifrey lives and everything, but I think I love the idea that the Doctor could just run into another Time Lord and like, hey, dude, how you doing? Whether it's the guy.
Well, this is kind of like the third Time Lord he's run into, because we had the monk during the William Hartnell era, which was the first Time Lord he ran into. Then, of course, we had the Master, Roger Delgado's first Master. That was like the Moriarty to Jon Pertwee's Sherlock Holmes.
And then in the Tom Baker episode we watched, right, we had the kind of Harry Mudd type Time Lord, right?
Well, yeah, we had Drax.
Yeah.
And, of course, Romana and others, but yeah.
Yeah. So I just love the idea that this guy recognized the Doctor, and slowly the Doctor realized that this was one of his mentors and someone that he had admired, and I love that. I love that he ran into.
Glimpse of the Doctor's history, but
Yes.
also still made him mysterious because we don't get a big explanation. We just get a little hint, like, okay, we get enough. We get like, okay, this guy, the Campo, he was like, my mentor. He's the one who used to teach me to open my mind. And so maybe because we know the Doctor is kind of telepathic, that maybe he helped him with that, or helped him develop that skill that maybe other Time Lords don't have.
I hope so. I think that was good, Charles. And so anyway, I just loved it. I loved seeing it, and it was, like I said, I think it's a better world when the Doctor can run into a Time Lord out in the wild and kind of have fun with it.
So did it freak you out that when the Campo regenerated into Choji?
A little bit because I had that confusion of why that character,
Right.
and I like your explanation, projection. Really, what he's saying is this is, me, because we ever see them in the same room together?
That's a good question. I don't think we did.
I I don't think we did either. So it's interesting. I also saw on
At least not until
trivia.
he's about to regenerate.
Yeah. I saw in trivia this is the first episode the word regeneration
Yes,
was
it
used,
is. Yes, it is. So
which is kind of
yeah,
cool.
this is where they kind of get a handle on it. And
Right.
because we obviously see the Doctor regenerating, and with the Kanpo, they kind of like flesh out the concept a little more in this story. So it's pretty significant for that.
It is, and I think it's funny that I read that Baker was uncredited.
Yeah. Well, because he just shows up at the very end. He doesn't
Yeah.
speak, so it's
Right.
like a non-speaking cameo almost.
Yeah, which is very cool. So
And,
I'll save this for later.
And interestingly enough, a little trivia tidbit: they were filming Tom Baker's first episode, Robot, at the same time they were filming Planet of the Spiders. So you had.
I read that, and I thought that was fascinating, Charles, that you had the ability to, there were two doctors existing at the same time. So that's very, very slick. Good. All right. Next topic, Charles, as we try to get through.
Next topic. Okay. Crying over you.
Nice.
And that's obviously a Roy Orbison classic.
Absolutely.
Which I'm a big fan of Roy Orbison, so I had to throw that in there.
Absolutely.
So this is Sarah Jane Smith and the Brigadier and Yates, the Brigadier and Sarah Jane watched the regeneration of the Third Doctor into the Fourth Doctor. And so I wanted to talk about this. Now, Sarah, for the most part, she's there helping Mike Yates, as you talked about. And she kind of infiltrates that monastery, does her little reporter thing, sticking her nose in like Lois Lane where it doesn't belong. She meets up with Tommy, who is a, shall we say, challenged individual. And she befriends him. He crushes on her really hard to the point where he ends up stealing the Metabolus 3 crystal, intending to give it to her as a gift because he likes her so much. And she also, ends up on Metabolus 3 with the Doctor to help them, kind of rally the locals against the spiders, the eight legs, as they're known there, because spiders is a forbidden word, and ends up getting captured, and then eventually rescued and taken over by the Spider Queen, and used back on Earth to try to recover the Metabolus 3 crystal for the Great One.
Yeah, what can you say? I love Sarah Jane. She is so energetic and engaged, and very much her own person. She kind of has a separate adventure that ends up, colliding with the Doctor. I did like Tommy's story. Reminded me a little bit of the famous flowers for
Algernon. Yeah.
Algernon,
So you basically have this like a mentally challenged individual who, because of the Metabolus 3 crystal, actually gets his intelligence augmented, so that now he can read, he can communicate more effectively. He knows what's going on, and he's like everybody else. And I think he has a good line where he says, like, like Sarah says to him, like, you're just like everybody else. And Tommy replies, "Oh, I certainly hope not," which I thought
Yeah,
was rather funny.
and I thought it was very funny. And then, when he's, as we record this, Game of Thrones comes back tonight, so pardon the pun.
Yes.
He holds the door.
Yeah.
Like, no, you will not pass. And
That's
protects
a good point. That it is kind of like Hodor, where he has a good little moment where he's defiant against
Yes.
the other members of the monastery who get taken over by the spiders, and are trying to storm the office of the Campo.
Yeah, and so I thought that was, the actor did a really good job of kind of showing, both sides of Tommy, and so I thought that was really well
Yeah, they made
done.
a comment that because of Tommy's innocence, that's what protected him from the blasts from the spiders.
Yes.
So I thought that was rather good.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so and then of course Sarah, we have the big, we get toward the end. She's obviously very upset that the Third Doctor is dying on her, and because the Doctor disappears, like she ends up back on Earth, but he had disappeared and doesn't return for quite a while, only to end up back in unit headquarters after getting lost in the vortex. And he stumbles out, collapses to the ground, and she starts crying, which is the reason for my title. And Jon Pertwee's doctor has to reassure her, like, hey, don't cry, like he says, where there's life, there's, and then it trails off because he dies and regenerates.
Yes, and if we had wanted to have another musical name for this segment, Dolly Parton's "Here We Go Again."
I was thinking of something like that. I was trying to remember that. So
because
the Brigadier.
I thought the Brigadier. That was so funny, and I do think if you hung around with the Doctor, you would have that mentality of, okay, it's just another day.
Well, the Brigadier is the first sort of companion to really see yet another incarnation of the Doctor. He's already been through a regeneration issue when Patrick Troughton's Doctor came back as the Third Doctor, although he didn't see the regeneration. But here, now he actually gets to see it for the first time. So, we got the Brigadier reacting to it. He's just more like, Sarah's trying to explain to him, like, who the Campo and Choji is, and he's like, oh, yeah, great, that just sums everything up perfectly.
That was such a great line, Charles, where he's just like, oh, that clears it up, and with no sarcasm at all,
it's
and
that wit that the Brigadier has so well.
Yes.
And
absolutely. I love that.
Nicholas Courtney, of course, delivers that just note perfect, in my opinion. But,
absolutely.
And he gets to actually watch this regeneration happen. So, you've got two different reactions. Like, you've got Sarah, who's obviously just distraught, and you've got the Brigadier who's stolid and just like, oh, this is interesting.
Yes.
So I just thought that was kind of interesting to talk.
I think it was a wonderful way to end this kind of series, and knowing that we're going to start a new era the next time Doctor Who comes on, especially from a historic perspective. Like, you're going, absolutely, it is just here we go again.
Yeah, and the new Campo that shows up and helps give a little push to the regeneration process points out that you may find the new Doctor's behavior somewhat erratic, which is a big tell that Tom Baker's Doctor isn't quite all there. He's definitely a madman in the box, let's put it that way. And we're all the better for it, by the way.
Absolutely, and I love the fact that they've continued that transition of, at least part of the first episode of a new Doctor is this the new Doctor getting used to this new form, whether it's new teeth or new nose or just I'm not quite baked yet. I'm not fully baked yet. So I think
not cooked yet. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Very
Or
cool.
now with Jodie Whittaker, like, hey, I'm a completely new gender.
Yes.
So yeah, we'll see how that goes. So
yes, very
okay.
much.
So third and final topic as we try to wrap this up before Skype crashes on us again, yet again. This is more of a album title reference.
Okay.
Biggie TARDIS and the Spiders from Metabilis.
Very
So
nice.
if you're a David Bowie fan, Biggie TARDIS is a play on words on Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. Arguably the best David Bowie album, in my opinion.
Thank you very much.
So that's the reference there. So if you're a David Bowie fan, as I am, hope you appreciate the reference. And this, of course, is the Spiders from Metabilis 3, the Great One, and the Populace there, the two legs, as they're called there, who are essentially slaves, with Eric and others that, as Land and others, as they try to, they're basically oppressed by the eight legs. So I want to get your thoughts on the Spiders as villains and what you thought of them crawling around and jumping on people's backs.
Liked them a lot. There are many science fiction, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the Tripod trilogy. That's a young adult novel that I loved about people taking over. So I think this was really well done. I thought they were just enough mincing and scary that they worked. There's a lot of simplicity to just showing the spider versus having to do a lot of special effects for a Dalek or a Cyberman or some other monster. So I liked it a lot. I thought they were very interesting. I thought the whole the slave culture and them trying to rebel, taking over the people at the monastery. It was a good villain and it was a good story. I felt like it was a good send-off to Pertwee's Doctor. And once again, there is a beauty to just telling a story. I will not beat that drum again, that at times in the modern era, Moffat can be a little too clever for himself. I just loved this straightforward story. I loved the James Bond flying car.
Yeah, that was one thing we didn't talk about during the Doctor segment at the beginning. Was that multi-vehicle chase with Lupton. What did you think about that? While we're talking about it?
I loved it. It was really fun and it was good.
James Bond.
It's that was my note. Very James Bondish, and it was,
I had to think that Jon Pertwee, because he loves getting involved in that stuff, was just digging that as like, if I'm going to go out in a final episode, I want to do this big multi-vehicle chase.
And it was really, and you could tell he's a very action-oriented Doctor. Yes. And so I like that. There's a lot of fight scenes.
A lot of judo flipping.
Yes, and as someone who grew up with Kirk fighting in Star Trek with a lot of tumbles and that, it felt like that. Yes, that era, fighting. It was just really good. So I have my own version of Reverse the Polarity that we'll talk about when we get to yours, because I don't want to spoil it in case I pick yours. But the spider reminded me of a modern episode and a certain creature.
I think I know which one you're talking about, but we'll see.
Yes.
So maybe I'll just let you do the Reverse the Polarity this week. Or reverse the polarity. So no, the spiders, the jumping on people's backs. This apparently freaked a lot of people out back in 1974.
Okay.
Now, granted, it's 1974 special effects, so it's not nearly as scary as it would be today, or watching it today in 2017.
Right.
But can you imagine what that kind of thing would be like if they had like modern special effects today?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, I think it would
just
be.
like if you were creeped out by like the spiders in Lord of the Rings or what have you, or Harry Potter, giant
Right.
spiders, you would be freaked the hell out. I think if he had,
Oh,
if you did this story in 2017.
yeah, with the digital
Yes, yeah,
special
with the
effects
improvement in
and
special effects, yeah,
yeah,
this would be, and especially if they started
yeah.
jumping on people's backs, you would have arachnophobes like running for the hills.
Well, and also, one of the things you could have done is had smaller spiders that, with special effects are going inside your eyes and ears to take over your body. That would be creepy as
Yeah.
heck. So yeah, I think it was a good villain. I think for the time, period, without any qualifiers, they were a good
Yep.
villain and it was a good story. And I especially think they did well with their limitations of the, early 70s special
Yeah,
effects.
I agree. So yeah, Chris Chibnall, you need to bring these guys back. I
agree.
think that would be
Totally
a
agree.
great old school villain to bring back.
Oh, yeah,
All
totally
right,
agree.
for yeah. So hope.
By the
Yes.
way, I know it's not an important plot, but I love the Doctor and the Brigadier going out.
Oh,
Hearing the
at the beginning
comedian,
where they're trying to,
yeah,
they're trying to basically
get,
they're trying to investigate. There's a guy named Professor Clegg who
hmm
has like a stage performance where he's as a clairvoyant, but he's just
right.
like they bring him back to unit headquarters, and he's like, no, I'm just it's all an act, and then the doctor's like, dude, it's not an act. I know you're for real.
And there is I do not remember the name of the short story because I read it in high school, but there was a short story where you had to learn, they were magical. Everyone in the planet had magical powers, telekinesis and other stuff. And part of your education was you had to go to a planet where you couldn't use your powers as kind of a apprenticeship, and because the main character in the story is so involved, he says, magic is like a drug. It builds up in me, and he becomes a stage magician so that he can do his magic on stage to release that symbol, but no one believes it's magic, and in fact, the story ends with a little girl saying, "Oh, I can't believe he's doing that," and her big sister says, "Oh, it's just a trick," and he smiles. So I thought that was an interesting take. It looked like a Cyberman helmet, what they put on the guy.
I love the fact that actually it was like a hair dryer, and Benton comes in. Oh, I guess we're doing hair drying now. I hear you a hairdresser on the side, which I thought was hilarious.
It is, especially the era of shampoo and with Warren Beatty having a similar, that was a going style that Pertwee's wearing, and so he didn't say Eureka, he said I'm a streaker. I just love that joke. And then the whole Egyptian dance, I assume it's a belly dancer or a burlesque dancer, and the joke about, oh, we may have to have the men do those exercises.
The doctor's like, well, you're gonna have to do some adapting for that.
Yeah, I love the idea that the Doctor and the Brigadier were doing something socially. Now, yes, they had a purpose, but just seeing them, it was kind of fun for me.
You don't see the Brigadier in his uniform; he's actually in a suit at this point. So
Yes.
All right. Anything else about the story you want to talk about before we move on?
Once again, Charles, thank you for guiding me through Classic Who. I guess this is a good time to mention. So Charles has a whole plan between now and Christmas, and we are gonna mostly focus on regeneration episodes.
Yeah,
right?
I hope you like that plan.
I think it's a great plan.
I think now, what better
wonderful
time to cover regeneration stories than leading up to the 12th Doctor's regeneration?
Yeah, so I think that is a great plan. We
And
will.
that way you can compare regenerations once the 12th Doctor regeneration hits.
Yes. So Charles and I will. One of us will put out on the Facebook page the episodes we're planning to cover, so that you can watch it in advance and give us feedback on when you rewatch it with us.
And
but
obviously
I think it's
we're
a
going to
great
talk
plan.
about at the end of this episode what our next story will be.
Absolutely.
So you can do your homework and follow along with us. So, all right.
Absolutely.
So, favorite lines of this episode.
So I did not. I watched it on iTunes, so I did not. I did not make any notes. So please share yours. I don't have any to share.
Real quick, there's an exchange between Sarah and the Doctor, where she says, this is balmy. Here I am, calmly discussing fabulous planets with blue moons, giant spiders, magic crystals, as if I were talking about pussycats, fish and chips, and the Liverpool docks. And the Doctor replies, well, they're just as real. So I did that.
I did see that, and I loved that. I do remember that line, and I smiled when it happened.
I get nervous at those pregnant pauses because I think, well, did we lose our Skype connection?
Yes. Absolutely. No, we're good.
Just checking. All right. So there's another exchange between the Doctor and Sarah where they're all tied up. Well, they're captured in these like webbing cocoons on Metabolus 3, and the Doctor, they're kind of kidding around about it. The Doctor's like, yes, it'll make a good item on the next agenda on the Spider Council meeting. Whether to stew a Time Lord or roast him in a slow oven. And Sarah replies, that'll give him something to chew over.
I did love the scene where the Doctor and Sarah Jane are both in the cocoons, right? And they're just kind of calmly talking, and that was wonderful.
Yeah, just Sarah was just like, dude, aren't you worried? Should we get out of here? And the Doctor's all patient, just like, well, it'll happen when it'll happen. So
exactly.
No big deal. When you've done this as much as I have, you're not too worried about it. And then, of course, the final exchange between Sarah Jane and the Brigadier. Look, Brigadier, look, I think it's starting. And the Brigadier replies, well, here we go again. An iconic Brigadier line.
Absolutely.
He's
just so wonderful.
Day, so that was great.
Yes.
All right. Rating. What's your rating for this one?
So, I am gonna give it. I'm always tempted to overpraise, but this was really a lot of fun. So, I'm gonna give it 9 out of 10. Great cups of coffee in honor of my favorite blog on the internet, Damn Good Coffee and Hot. And because the Sergeant makes the best coffee.
Yep, he does. So cheers for the shout out there. I appreciate that. Yeah. So I give it 9 out of 10 Metabolus crystals. Because for obvious reasons. And I just thought this was a great, solid entry for Jon Pertwee to go out on. So very happy with the story, and I'm glad you liked it as well.
Yeah, good stuff. It was really fun. And, I do hope that in the wasteland that is going to be 2018, we pick a couple more Pertwee episodes.
I'm sure we will.
There's just something really cool about him. He has a little bit of the deadpan of Capaldi. Right. I love how active he is. It's just a very cool Doctor.
Yeah, I totally agree. And if you're a Jon Pertwee fan or we're curious about the Jon Pertwee era, don't worry, we're gonna have your back here in 2018. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So yes,
awesome.
We will definitely cover more Jon Pertwee. Because I know that you seem to really dig his era, so.
Right. I do. I'm really surprised how much I like him, and he is quickly becoming.
I gotta keep my partner in time happy,
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, if I had to pick a favorite classic Doctor, right now he's leading. I just think he's pretty cool. Right. So yeah, good stuff.
All right, so time to reverse the polarity.
Yes.
But Jesse, I think I know which episode you're going to refer to.
Yes,
So,
I was.
let me make my guess. All right.
Okay.
I'm guessing you're going to go with The Runaway Bride.
No.
Oh, okay. You surprised me.
T-
I thought
Turn
actually
left.
turn left. Oh, that's right. That's a good one.
Uh, the 11th episode of the fourth series back in June of 2008. It is a Dr. Light episode, as they say, but it is a massive what if episode. The idea that a time beetle,
Right.
which very much resembles the eight legs. In fact, I had to Google, was this the same
Right.
villain? Was this the same
Nope.
creature? Gets on the back of Donna, and it changes
There's
it where,
something on your back.
yes, and it's the whole episode is a kind of reverse, It's a Wonderful
Right.
Life. It's a crappy life. What if Donna had not met the doctor? And it shares the details of what happens. I won't go into much of the details because it basically everything is crappy because she did not meet the
Right.
doctor. But it is a very clever episode. It is worth a rewatch. And if you are not a fan of Donna, as I have been in the past, I think this is a great episode where you see Donna's selfishness, less selfish nature, and she is heroic at the end, and there's enough a connection with the eight legs that was my thought that this would be a fun episode to rewatch because of the creature connection. What were you going to pick?
Well, I thought that. Now I like yours. I think I really like your suggestion with turn
Okay,
left. So
well, good.
we can go with that. But I know the episode I was going to suggest is Hyde, which is
Okay.
from the 11th Doctor era. And the only reason I was bringing this up, I'll just mention this real quick for time, is that this was the return of the Metabolus 3 crystal. So
Okay.
yeah, that was the big connection to Planet of the Spiders, was that the 11th Doctor, although he refers to it as the Metabolus crystal because someone didn't tell Matt Smith how to pronounce Metabolus, and nobody else
Okay.
caught it. So come on,
I know,
it's
Charles.
just,
I hear you.
nobody else caught
okay,
it in Doctor Who production. Nobody caught that.
Yeah, no one seen the show?
Apparently not.
That's
Yeah.
great.
All right.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, the Metabolus 3 crystal makes its return.
All right.
So that's the main gist. But I really like Turn
Okay.
Left. I think that's a good recommendation.
Oh, well, thank you, Charles. I am planning to try to have part of my assignment is, try to find a modern episode that matches the classic you give me. So
No, I like that. I like
I
that.
can help.
You can handle the reverse
Yeah.
polarities if you want. That's fine.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think
that
that's
sounds
great.
good.
All right.
All right.
So we have some feedback. I don't know if we want to go into this for time, or do you want to go ahead and read the feedback?
If you have the feedback, go for it.
Okay, so all right, we have two feedbacks really. Let's see. One is from David K. Proctor, who wrote in just after our cutoff from last time. So let me pull his email up here. And David K. Proctor wants to talk about the Series 10 finale, The Doctor Falls. He says, I know the Master really wants to hurt the Doctor. Have you considered that the time relative to Bill was 10 years? He spent 10 years setting that up and stuck with it almost day to day. I know his TARDIS was broken, but you've seen how Missy treated Bill and Clara. He endeared himself to her. That is diabolical. I figure he would have been more likely to have tried to take over with the Cybermen. But he went there with that purpose. And then he also suggests Idris Elba or Daniel Craig for the next Doctor, but I'm pretty sure they're too busy making much more money in movies. But and as it turns out, that wasn't the case. So sorry, David, you kind of missed that one, but so did we. So no big deal.
Yes,
So
we
don't feel-
did.
But thank you, David, for writing in.
Absolutely, and I think that is a wonderful point about how devious the Master is, and how obsessed he would just have.
Yeah, that was one thing we didn't really talk about, was it? That how just because he's a Time Lord, 10 years is no big deal to him whatsoever.
Right.
So he's just like, I've got 10 years to totally mess with it, to manipulate one of the Doctor's companions into becoming a Cyberman.
Yeah, he truly is playing the long game.
Mess with the Doctor. So yeah, that's the master. Remember, I said, you can't trust. So sure enough, that's the case. So thanks, David, for writing in.
Okay.
And then our other feedback is from Paul Beck from Australia.
Yay, Paul.
Writing in, making a habit of it. Glad you didn't give up after now that we're back on Classic Who. But he writes in, he says, "Hey, Charles and Jesse. Well, the long wait to the Christmas special begins, and I'm looking forward to both of you reviewing older shows. So I hope you like this one, Paul. The one I forgot to mention was how good. One thing I forgot to mention was how good was the music was this season from Murray Gold. I'm guessing he refers to, especially the Doctor Falls. I just loved it. I do have a cool story related to music of Doctor Who. A mate of mine named Peter used to run a corner store near where my wife and I live just south of Sydney. In his store, he also sold Doctor Who merchandise. One day, a lady came into his store and noticed all the Doctor Who items and said to Peter that he would probably know of her father that lives nearby. Peter asked what his name was, and it turned out her father was none other than Dudley Simpson. I know you know who that is, Charles. And Dudley Simpson.
Please
so
share.
Yes, Dudley Simpson is one of the composers of Doctor Who from the classic era, who wrote music for the first 4 Doctors, including the story we covered today, Planet of the Spiders. So that ties in rather well. So Paul didn't know that we were covering Planet of the Spiders because we hadn't figured it off. Where he was singled out for his contribution to the music of Doctor Who. I think he is now in his 90s, but it was great to see him honored that way. Sending both of you my kindest regards. Take care, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. That is a great story.
That is a great story,
and
Paul.
We appreciate it. And I love the fact that you can run into random Doctor Who experiences wherever. Charles, I was interviewing a guy that does an Americana music podcast this week, and we spent the first 15 minutes talking about Doctor Who and how he was not happy with the Moffat era. Before we got into talking music, and he thought Capaldi was not served well. He was excited for a new showrunner, and I may send you that clip. I hope so too. Thank you. Please, if someone wants to give us feedback, how would they, Charles?
So if you want to be like David and Paul, be one of the cool people that write into Next Stop Everywhere so we can read your emails or whatnot, your comments on Facebook, you can reach us at Next Stop Everywhere SMG. Don't forget the SMG, people. What's coming up with the new Doctor, Jodie Whittaker, and what your hopes are for Series 11.
Absolutely. I can be reached at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter, and I would love to hear from you. You can hear me talk about music on Set Lusting Bruce on this fine Southgate Media channel. And so excited about that. Charles, we've already talked about Damn Good Coffee and Hot, but share again how people can read your thoughts about all kinds of geeky things and how they can reach you.
Well, obviously, I posted an article on the aforementioned Damn Good Coffee and Hot.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
About Jodie Whittaker becoming the 13th Doctor. So you can check it out there, as you mentioned. And also at Charles Skaggs on the Twitter machine, at Charles Skaggs on the Instagram. You can reach me at Facebook on Charles Skaggs. And Google Plus for all you crazy kids on the Google Plus. I'm there. And then obviously my other 2 podcasts that I do for Southgate Media, including the Phantom Zone podcast that I do with friend of the show, Karen Lindsay, where we discuss comic book on TV shows, and Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast that I do with Zan Sprouse, where we discuss the latest series of Twin Peaks that's airing on Showtime against Game of Thrones. So it's going to be a rather tricky night to watch TV tonight in the Skaggs household.
By the way, congratulations. We got the numbers for June downloads, and your little Twin Peaks podcast did very well, considering it was a brand new podcast.
Yeah, we're kicking on the holy ass on Ghostwood. Surprisingly. So we doubled our numbers from the previous month. We had almost 2,000 downloads. So cheers to everyone listening on Ghostwood. And we were like the sixth highest Southgate Media podcast. So thanks to everybody for checking out the Twin Peaks podcast. I'm just surprised it did that well. And thank you everybody who's been listening. And I hope some more of you listen as well.
Absolutely. I will tell you that the Doctor Who side of Charles and I were a little like, really? Twin Peaks over Doctor Who? Can we not get a few more downloads? So,
it's a little tricky now we're shifting to a bi-weekly schedule.
Yes, it will be. It'll be much tougher.
We're in the off season, so no big worries. Yeah. But hopefully, everybody keeps listening, and please spread the word about what we're doing so that we can keep our downloads up and help us do well here on Next Stop Everywhere.
Absolutely. So, Charles, thank you for fighting through Skype with me.
Yes.
It's a wonderful discussion about the new Doctor.
Next time at Next Stop Everywhere, we're going to discuss The Keeper of Traken from the Tom Baker era, the penultimate story of the Tom Baker era, and also the story that got me hooked on Doctor Who. So this is the part one of the Master Trilogy. So we're going to do the whole trilogy of The Keeper of Traken, Logopolis, and Castrovalva. So part one will be next time on Next Stop Everywhere, episode 91, The Keeper of Traken, which features a regeneration, but not the Fourth Doctor's. I'll just leave it right there.
Oh, I do know that when I was at lunch with Ken, he was very excited we're doing the Master Trilogy.
Yeah, so I'm glad he approves, and because it's kind of a big deal, and obviously features the Fourth Doctor regenerating, so that's part of why we're covering it. But I thought we should do the whole trilogy because there's a lot more going on.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited.
I thought that would be a good opportunity to do that. So come back and let us know what you think about The Keeper of Traken.
Absolutely. It's always fun to talk to Ken and Karen's favorite Doctor. So I wanted to close with a quote from Neil Gaiman that I thought was very appropriate during this time period. And when he was asked about changing of the guard, when the Doctor changes, he said, "I want to see the Doctor. I want to be taken by surprise. I want to squint at a photo of the person online and go, but how can that be the Doctor? Then I want to be amazingly, delightedly, completely proven wrong. And 6 episodes in, I wonder how I could have been so blind. Because this is the Doctor. Of course it is."
Nice.
And I think that's my advice to everyone who's feeling a little nervous. When Tennant left, we got Matt Smith. And when Matt Smith, we got Peter Capaldi. And, now then we're getting Jodie Whittaker. And
I'm sure Jodie Whittaker will be fine. Don't worry, everybody. All will be well. Yeah. Just take a deep breath. Relax. It's all going to work out.
And Charles and I will be here to virtually hold your hand.
Exactly. Well, we're not going to hold your hand because you're not children. But we'll be here as your friends and companions in the world of Doctor Who.
If you're scared and you need a handhold, I'll hold
you. There you go. Or we'll give you a reassuring hug. How's that?
Absolutely. Right. Charles, go enjoy the rest of your day.
You too as well, my friend.
Thank you so much. All right, we will talk soon.
Bye, everyone. There he is.
Hello, Charles. You doing okay?
I'm doing good. I'm scrambling.
Oh no, hate to hear that.
because the news came out.
Oh, did it? I had not seen. I was Googling, so they.
Well, you can go to Damn Good Coffee. I've got a post up.
All right.
It's a really quick and dirty post, but it's a post.
Okay.
But I also posted it on Next Stop Everywhere and our Facebook page.
So, is it officially announced or did it leak?
It's officially announced because there was a video.
Okay. And
From
so,
the
who is it?
You don't want me to spoil it, do you?
Yeah, I don't care.
Okay. Jodie Whittaker, the first female Doctor Who.
All right. I'm excited.
So she's from Broadchurch.
Okay.
She played Beth Latimer. So we
Okay.
can talk about. We actually have something to talk about during the show. So you thought we wouldn't?
Well, that ruins my introduction.
Yes,
But okay, yes, it does. Awesome.
But
Good.
I think it's worth ruining that introduction, don't you?